All right, everyone. This will be the final video I'll be composing for this class for this semester. This is the Sunday. What is it today? 5th? Anyway, yeah, it's the 5th. So this is the Sunday before our final exam happens this coming week. Just wanted to talk about wrap-up stuff. Quickly reflect on the last couple months of content since the midterm. Talk a little bit about the study guide I just posted and the test that's coming, and a little bit about the third and final paper as well. So a few people have requested another study focusing instrument, so I just threw one of those together. Mostly what I do is I just go back through the reading prompts, PR in the title, the notes that correspond with the readings and the videos, and I just kind of like quickly look at the stuff there and like emphasize the most important stuff. So just as a reminder, the idea here is that, for each week there's a couple of readings. You're supposed to be doing those readings each week, going through them, reading through them. There's a video that I put together to explain those readings, to kind of focus on the key stuff, and then I add these PR, the prompts, the notes as well. Together, that should give you a pretty good perspective on the content for each week. So at this point, there's not too much more to emphasize coming off, those three things. But some people like to have kind of one thing that's trying to summarize. And so I've tried to do that in the study focusing instrument for the final, which is just now below the exam link on the main page for our final unit. So you can go through that and you can get a little bit more of a sharpened up idea of like what to be looking at. Just as there's a couple reminders here. We did not cover and will not cover the readings by the last one there on green on moral tribes. So there's no video, there's no reading, there's no prompts. Just don't worry about that one. Everything else looks pretty good. There's more content on the Canvas page than is on our syllabus and is also on the study focusing instrument. A lot of that stuff's just meant for your assistance. It helps illuminate some ideas, offers some illustrations, some other kind of interesting ways of getting at the stuff we've been talking about in that related reading or whatever. So by all means, explore that kind of stuff. And as I mentioned on the study guide itself, the bottom there's some notes, and I just mentioned, like, by all means, please, like, bring that stuff in, especially in your written responses, because it's all relevant. It's all part of what we're doing here. It's just not like required officially. So hopefully you've been already doing a fair bit of studying. We had this whole last week with no new content, so that's your opportunity to get caught up. Hopefully the viewing of the videos is increasing, and you're getting that content that it looked like we were low on, frankly, for a little while there. The final exam format will be the same as the midterm, 25 multiple choice questions, 5 written response. I'm going to give you more than 5 questions for the written response portion. You get to choose. And then I get lots of requests for bonus stuff. The way I do that is I add a 6th dialog box. So just as a reminder, all of the questions are in one dialog box for the exam, and then I provide 5 more empty dialog boxes for you to respond to each of the 5 questions. All I ask is that you number which question it is so that I know what's being addressed in each one. Should be pretty obvious, but sometimes not. And then I'll add a 6th box, and that one's for just like, go ahead and choose one more question to write on, and I'll grade it as though it were another question out of 10. So you have the ability of getting 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 more points added onto your final test score. I've seen scores really jump when students are already doing well on the test, and then they answer that 6th dialogue box question, a lot of scores go over 100%. That can really boost up your final grade quite a bit. So this is your chance to really, if you're worried about bonus points, that's your chance. The main reminder, I've sent several. I've sent several for the midterm, and I've now mentioned it a few more times, and it's on the study guide. You got to watch your clock. You got to budget your time. There's 2 hours for this test, not 90 minutes as with the midterm. That's the 2 hours is the allotted official final exam time. So you have 2 hours to do this test, which I think is just tons of time. The multiple choice questions should not take that much time. If you've done the prep, if you've done the reading, if you're ready to go, then the multiple choice questions should be fine. And then it's a matter of getting the written responses to where you're happy. Again, a substantial paragraph, a half page or so of normal kind of writing, like in the little blue books. Depends on the size of your writing, of course, but a paragraph or so, a fairly substantial response that's more than just a few sentences or even a few words. Explain, be specific, be detailed. That's what I'm looking for there. So there should be plenty of time, but even so, if you are hoping to get that bonus question done, just make sure you're looking at the clock closely, making sure that you're budgeting your time properly and making sure that you're giving yourself time to get through that all. And again, the written response questions are worth 10 points each. The multiple choice questions are only worth 2 points each. So don't let the multiple choice drag you down. Do your very best to respond to those written response questions, because that's where things can really go up or down. So I think that's it for the test. Just as a kind of content reminder of what's been going on is we've been looking at coming out of the midterm at a lot of different kind of developments that have happened, over the course of the decades that we've been looking at, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. Big story about the rise of the internet, digital technology, and how all that stuff complicates our ability to have clear understandings of the extensional world, to have clear, consistent communication patterns. All right, so there's a lot of complications, and we've been trying to work through a lot of that stuff and how it's taken over so much of our just everyday lives, and therefore how difficult it's become to fulfill the serious man agenda and wish about clarity and consistency and reliability and not falling prey to error and misinterpretation and all that stuff, right? So it's a gnarly world that we now inhabit in terms of language, mediation, and thought, cognition. All right, so we looked at a bunch of stuff on just how challenging it is to have clear thoughts and to have clear language in a time of so much mediated sensation and spectacle and distortion. I mean, we are now starting to see the effects of misinformation and distortion in terms of the splintering of the social realm. And the fact that, people seem to not even seem genuinely inhabit different worlds where what is true over here is completely false over there and vice versa. But there's these internally coherent patterns that make sense to everyone. And it's wow, we have so much powerful technology, but it's not necessarily doing our cognition and our collective cognition much good. And so here I invoke Douglas Rushkoff, and the Team Human book and that whole project, because he's really trying to hang on to something that he thinks is uniquely human, right? And so that cooperative animals is that's the final reading we looked at. That's a good piece for thinking about what is it, when we're talking about these digital technologies, what are we talking about? And then when we're talking about humanity, what are we talking about? Because we seem to be marching forward and everyone just sort of happy with bring on more. We got the metaverse coming, the Mark Zuckerberg metaverse. And it's just more and more and more digital, technological, more into our daily lives, more into our vision, our visual space and our material space, more inside, more outside. Rushkoff wants to say, whoa, hold on. What if we're losing something really important here that defines, humans as humans? So I really like his work there. And I'm not super happy, frankly. I've only taught this class a few times. I'm not super happy with how this class ends in terms of toward shared understanding. There's not a ton of material in there. We've got Scott, Rushkoff, and Kahneman. I used to have a few more readings in there. But, how do you solve this problem? How do you leave this class and this semester feeling okay about the prospects of shared understanding, shared communication, language, meaning? There's so much change. There's so much friction. There's so much tension. I've been teaching for 20 years now, and things have always been rough. You've always been able to say, like, this is not great, that's not great. But now things are truly, truly, like, crumbling in a scary way. I mean, I get nervous every time I read the news, every single day. And it's just more and more and more, and it's worse and worse and worse. And meanwhile, how are we trying to hang on to things? Trying to rely on information, trying to rely on each other's perspectives and words and language. What about trust, right? There's a lot of issues that are really big, and frankly, this one class can't really, figure it all out. Nevertheless, we leave off with some gestures toward, rhetoric, frankly. Traditional rhetoric in the kind of Aristotelian, Isocratean mode, Ciceronian mode, is really just about trying to make your best possible argument that you can make. This is Robert Scott, Rhetoric as Epistemic. Making the best possible argument you can make, knowing that things are constantly changing. Contingency. Always changing, always changing. Nevertheless, we must act. We must have the will to act. And we must have the responsibility to accept the consequences for our actions. And we must tolerate one another's attempts as well, right? And so it feels like we've just kind of let go of a lot of this stuff in terms of toleration and responsibility and even will in many respects. So we're trying to leave off by gesturing towards ways of thinking about hopefulness, some small measure of cooperation. How does that look? Just reminders, right? We are cooperative beings. Language exists for us to get things done together. We inhabit a shared world with people who we might not like. Nevertheless, we all occupy the same land, nation, communities, whatever. We got to figure out ways of trying to get things done together, especially with the big challenges we have with global warming, homelessness, inequality. And now, increasingly, these things are part of the problem, right? And so we got big things on the horizon that we have to help solve. Your generation's the one that has to go out there and really try to, jump into these problems and help figure them out. And it's just starting to feel kind of like it's too big, right? And so hopefully, coming out of this class, you got a sense of the challenges that beset all of us on a daily basis, just how difficult it is to maintain clear thoughts, maintain clear language, maintain reliable and sort of semi-trustworthy communication with people who we might not know, trying to understand and appreciate just how many sources of influence are coming at us from all angles, right? So being vigilant, being on guard, being mindful that the world as it exists doesn't necessarily want us to be clear and coherent and consistent. It's something that we actually have to now struggle to do, and I hope that we will and do. So I guess that's the final plea for what we're trying to do here in this class. And if it's not been clear, I am not a serious man. I am not someone who's trying to promote the serious man model. I'm obviously a rhetoric man, but I also see some importance in the aspirations of the serious man, right? We should always try to want better arguments and better evidence and better sources of support. Frankly, this just gets back to Aristotle and rhetoric, right? And there's no necessarily best and worst. It's just always about probabilities. It's always about making the better argument if you can. Trying to marshal the strongest possible case that you can. Doing your diligence. Doing what you can to try to be a responsible citizen in this regard, in terms of information and messaging and even listening and how we receive information. I had a student in one of my other classes writing a final paper, and he just went off on this COVID stuff. It's man, even in our papers that we're writing in our classes, it's the anger, the outrage. I wish we could try to lower the temperature and slow down a bit. thinking about Kahneman there, fast and slow. Slow down a bit. Let's reflect. Let's try to like not be so reactive, right? So hopefully you can take some of these ideas out into the world and share them and try to think about them and own them and you know, what matters to you and you know, what values do you want to defend and how do you want to do that? That's the class. So I guess that's probably pretty good for the test. Just a final sort of remarks about the paper. That's the nosedive episode of Black Mirror. It's a fascinating episode. It has everything going on there in terms of how we live our lives today through these devices, the digital world, and all the stuff about, you know, mediation and how it affects how we think about ourselves and how we think about our relation to others. There's a very rich text, and all I'm asking you to do is choose, I can't remember how many of the readings, and just sort of talk about how they're playing out in this text. So as with all the papers, the key here is for you to demonstrate your conceptual understanding of the readings or the key ideas from the readings. So you need to sort of showcase that in the paper, right? Explain what is meant from the reading, right? Do a little bit of that translation work where you're letting me know that you understand what, you know, whoever was talking about, whether it's Scott or Kahneman or DeBoer or whatever. And then provide a nice nuanced analysis of the episode by going through the readings and by coming up with some really interesting little moments. I think the papers have been going pretty well. The Truman Show paper was quite good, I thought. It seemed like some of you had never seen the movie and maybe even heard about it, but you enjoyed it and saw the relevance. So it's more of that, but you're working with a shorter text and I would say a juicier text. So it shouldn't be too much of a stretch, frankly. If you're studying for the final exam and you're immersing yourself in these concepts, they're the same ones that you're going to be working with on the final exam, and so it should all kind of work together. So the last thing I would say is, you know, our scheduled final exam day and time is on the 7th at 10 a.m. That's if we were in our classroom, we would be showing up in the classroom. Obviously, I've done this class remotely, and so we're going to do the final exam remotely, which is probably not the smartest move on my part, but we're going to be consistent. We're not going to come into a classroom. So I'm allowing this to happen on Friday the 10th of December, so just under a week from now. This coming Friday will be test day. You'll have 24 hours to take the test. All you need is 2 hours. If for some reason you cannot find 2 hours, starting Thursday at 12:01 a.m., so it's technically Friday, but it's Thursday night, you have 24 hours until Friday at 11:59 p.m. to take this test. If you cannot find 2 hours, then of course the fallback is the actual scheduled official day and time of our test, which no one's got a conflict there because we're supposed to be in our class. So that will be the time to take the test if you can't do it on Friday. Same deal, 2 hours. Please study in advance. Please don't use the test time to be looking for answers. Technically, that's cheating. Don't do it. Know what you're knowing before you go into the test, and then take it on your own. I guess that's about it. Since this is the last I'll be talking to you, my suspicion is that this has not been the happiest experience, anticipating a class in the classroom and then the professor just chucks it up online. At the beginning of the semester, I mentioned I did that because the numbers were bad, and the numbers have not been great throughout the entire semester. Part of it was to make my own life a little bit easier in terms of I got a lot of drama going on at my own house, my personal life. Everyone's going through stuff right now. I'm included in that. So if I've been slow to respond to emails, and I know that I've been slow to grade some stuff, so my apologies. I got a lot going on. And I've done my best to create content that is robust and engaging, and hopefully the videos have been engaging. I got an internet comment from someone named Dwayne Johnson yesterday saying that he couldn't watch one of my videos because I was moving my arms like a spasmodic idiot. So I'm going to try to move my arms less. I'm even trying to do it right now. Sorry, Dwayne Johnson. Sorry for all the movements. I will try harder to not move so much like a spasmodic idiot. So, hey, appreciate the feedback. In any case, we made it. We're almost there. I do wish that I had had it. For me, the sad part about all this is I just don't get a chance to actually talk with the students. Truth is, I hate masks. I'm not an anti-masker. I acknowledge the importance of masks, but I have these glasses that constantly slide off my face when I wear masks, and they steam up. I can't breathe. I hate masks, and I certainly don't want to teach behind a mask. I had to teach my graduate seminar in class because it's just that much more important for grad students to all be together in a seminar. So I had to teach that class behind a mask, and it's miserable. I truly, truly hate it. This, to me, is a much better scenario for creating lectures. I can just talk to you. I'm trying to do it in about 30 minutes each time. There's no mask. I can say what I want to say. So apologies for not having the class in class this semester. I feel like things are evolving and changing in pretty wild ways where, I think next semester I'm doing this class again. I might do a kind of half of the week at home, half of the week in the classroom. I'm playing around with stuff here. So hopefully this wasn't too miserable of an experience. Hopefully that, the content was okay and you managed to do all right. Appreciate your patience along the way. It's a weird time. It's a weird semester. We're all going through stuff. I did not penalize a single person this semester for handing stuff in late. So that's my attempt to meet the moment. If you had a problem, if you were doing this or that, if just whatever, just get it to me. People are still sending me papers, and that's me trying to be chill and understanding and flexible. And I appreciate y'all doing the same. So I think this is getting long at this point. So hopefully this helps a bit with the final stuff and the wrap up. I'm around if you want to reach out and talk about readings, talk about whatever. I'll be here, and hope everyone's well. We're almost there. Hang in there, and be well, everyone. See ya.